Wednesday. So today I am going to be talking about how I became debt-free, my journey to debt freedom across 22 months. It took me 22 months to pay off 43K. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I think it's important for you to set your financial goals now. You know, you don't wait until January 1st because then that turns into February 1st. Next thing you know, it's December again. So it's important for you to set your goals now. So I'm going to be talking about that today. And then I hope to go live about more financial topics as well. Since, you know, I'm learning a lot of new things about finances. And I want to share those things with you. So as you're joining, I'll get started in a minute, but as you're joining, be sure to drop down in the comments and just drop your 2023 financial goals in the chat. So it doesn't have to be like long, but what's like the one financial goal that you want to work towards in 2023? So just drop that financial goal in the chat. I think my biggest financial goal that I will be working on in 2023 is that I want to buy a house. So that's my 2023 financial goal right now. So I already have that set, got my plan going to do that. And yeah, hopefully y'all will see like a house tour in 2023. So that's my big financial goal. But I want to know your financial goal. So yeah, drop down in the chat. Let me know what's your financial goal for 2023. What's something that you're really hoping for, whether it is to be debt free. Maybe it's to save in emergency fund. Maybe it's to buy a house too. Yeah, I want to know, what are your financial goals? Because that's what we're going to be talking about today. As you're logging in too, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. We are officially over 1,000 subscribers, so I am very, very excited about that major YouTube milestone. So yeah, I'm very happy about that. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all the likes and shares already. I'm also on social media, so you can follow me on Instagram at Miss Duggan09, Facebook at Miss Duggan09. You can also follow my personal page, which is Alexis Duggan on Facebook as well. I may open up my Instagram in 2023. I don't know. I'm still thinking about that. Not that there's anything on there that I don't want y'all to see, but it's just always been private. So, but I may open that up too. So those are some ways that you can follow me. So don't forget to do that as well. And I have some notes written down because I don't want to forget anything. So you'll see me looking at my notes, but also there'll be a time for questions. But as I'm talking, if you have questions, be sure to drop them down in the chat. And like I said, also drop down in the chat, what is your financial goal for 2023? Like, what's the main thing that you really, really want to work towards? Because 2023 is here. Like, it is definitely here. And I'm excited for 2023, especially financially, because I'm going into the year, my first year going into it debt free. So I'm very, very excited about that. And I want that for y'all too. Like, I think in the past, you know, like sometimes you hear people, oh, you're always gonna have debt for your whole life, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, you might, but that's not the path that I'm on. So, yeah, that's what I'm hoping, you know, for anybody who's on this live or who I come into contact with. Like, yeah, I want you to be debt free too. It's not just for me or like a select group of people. It's for anybody who wants to do the work, because it's not easy and it takes a little minute. I actually did like a presentation at my job about how I became debt free. And we were kind of talking about how, like, in our country, like, you can literally go into massive amounts of debt in like one day and outside of a house. So of course, you know, a home is like the biggest purchase that you'll most likely make in your life. I guess that and like a college education. But you can go into massive amounts of consumer debt in like a day, especially with things like Afterpay, especially with how, you know, some of the banks work. You know, they're willing to give you a loan, but they're not willing, you know, to kind of help you in like other areas. So yeah, going into debt is a serious thing in our country, something that I didn't really realize until about like 22 months ago, when it became like very just apparent to me. So let's talk about my debt-free journey, y'all. So this is how I got into $43,000 worth of debt. I actually it's right under 43, so it was like 42,999 and like some change. So I just rounded up to 43. So y'all, I have my little paper here. This is like a holy relic. Like, if you touch this, you might become debt free. Let me stop. But this is something that I keep in my wallet because it reminds me of where I came from and where I don't want to be. So when I started on my debt-free journey, I had to write down like everything, because you got to know what you're starting from. You know, once you get it on paper, it's not as bad. You know, it's not like this unknown like being. Like, no, it's on paper, it has some life, and you can break it down. So let's go over how I got into $43,000 worth of debt. So this is actually, I started in September 2020. So that's when I started my debt-free journey. And I started my debt-free journey because I actually had been like looking into like ways to budget. I had been looking into ways to just be better with my money, to save more money, and to know where my money was going. But there was nothing that I found that really worked for me. Like, yeah, I either didn't understand it, or it just wasn't working. And I had a friend, she was like a nail tech for me at the time. And she posted something on her Instagram, and it was this lady, I'll never forget. She was in like the ER. She had on scrubs and like a green like scrub thing. And she was holding a paper, and it had like a 6-digit number on there, and it was like, "I'm debt free." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I didn't know how much debt I was in, but I knew that I wasn't like in like a 6-figure debt. And I was like, well, let me click on this and see like what this thing is about. And it was Dave Ramsey's page. I had never heard of him. I didn't know who he was or anybody like associated with him. And I clicked on it and I went through like the whole Instagram, and I was like, you know, it wasn't like trying to sell you like anything. And that's what really got me, because a lot of times these places that are talking about being debt free, they want to sell you something. And it wasn't like trying to sell anything. I saw he had a podcast, so I started listening to the podcast. And then I bought his book, The Total Money Makeover. And that's what started my financial journey. And I just hopped right in. I know for some people, you know, they kind of play with it like a little, but I had gotten to a point where I was tired of making payments on all these things. I was tired of not having like enough money. I was tired of not knowing about money. And I'm an educator. I've been in education for a while now. And I love to learn. I love to read. But I had never like really looked into like financial education. It didn't interest me. It was kind of scary. And like I said, like it didn't make sense. But listening to the podcast, which was free, like for me, I'm a freebie girl. So like you can't beat free. So I started listening to the podcast every single day, and it was easy to understand. It made sense. And I just was like, yeah, like who wouldn't want to be debt free? Like, why not? And that's what like started my journey with being debt free. So I was in $43,000 worth of debt, and here is the amount of debt that I had. So I had a healthcare bill that was $282.53. I had another healthcare bill. It was a dental bill that I was paying on because I had braces, so I was still paying that off. That was $500. And now that I think about it, okay, so this was in 2020. My braces came off probably in like 18 maybe. So this was a little minute ago. I had a Bank of America credit card. That was like my first or second credit card as like a college student. That was $768.53. I had a rooms to go card I was paying on the bed, $961.20. That actually was the last thing that I financed. So the last thing that I financed was in July 2020, and that was a bed. I had another credit card, $1,710.44. I had a personal loan for $2,000, $248.78. Had my student loans were $14,180, and then I had a car loan. And then something else I don't have on here, I had a cell phone. I was financing a cell phone, which sounds so crazy to me now. But I was financing a cell phone, and I feel like I had something else, but I can't quite think of what it was. That was my debt. So that was my $43,000 worth of debt. Oh, I had another PayPal account, kind of like that Afterpay stuff, but it was a PayPal like version of that. So that was my other thing, the PayPal and then the cell phone. And that came to $43,000 worth of debt. So these are all these things that I was paying on, except for the student loans because it was 2020 and those had, stopped. You didn't have to pay on it. But those were all the things that I was paying on. And I had just gotten so freaking tired of it. I remember I would have like all these reminders on my phone so I didn't forget. Because I remember with Synchrony, like if you miss a piece of a payment, they report to the credit bureau like immediately. So I had like all of these reminders on my phone so I didn't forget. And it was just like too much. Like I was making money, but I didn't know where my money was going. And I didn't know I didn't have like a good financial picture for myself, which really like sucked because it's like I'm doing all this hard work. I'm doing everything right. Like I got all these degrees. I feel like I'm pretty on top within my field, where I want to be career wise, but I don't have any money. And like it sucked and it was embarrassing. Like nobody knew, of course, but I knew. And I'm the type of person where it's like as long as I know, then like that's all that matters. And like I was just so over it. Like it's not a good feeling to go to work and do all this work and then you still don't have like any money. And I noticed that was just like the story of like my financial life. So when I did my debt free scream, like I talked about how I remember like my church, they would have like Wednesday prayer and I would go to Wednesday prayer. And they would talk up and they would have like, and they would break it down into sections. So it was like family, career, and then they had like a financial section where they would just like pray like for like maybe like 10-15 minutes on financial things, and they would pray to be debt free, like for the church to be debt free. And I remember me praying for the church to be debt free too, but not thinking that like I could be debt free. Like now that I think about like back on that, like I was praying for that for something else, but I totally did not see that for myself. Or like the debt free that I saw was that God would just be like, all right, you're debt free. There it is. Like no work. Like that was the type of debt free that I saw. And it's just like, no, that's not realistic. And that kind of goes into what I'll talk about like a little later, which is like changing like your mindset. So these were all things that, had just kind of just been coming to me. And I just got to a point where I was just tired and I just needed like the education. I just needed the knowledge to be able to apply those things. So once I got the knowledge, like I really went in, I'm the type of person where I can be like really laser focused. Like once I have a goal in mind, and my goal was to become debt free. And I was able to use the knowledge from Dave Ramsey, listen to the podcast every single day. I listen to the podcast, and even now, like I was walking like earlier today, and I was listening to the podcast because it's just easy, everyday, daily education that helps you to get to where you want to be. And then like you hear things that you never have heard before. Like I'll be honest, I didn't know like what a Roth was before I started listening to Dave Ramsey. I really wasn't familiar with what an HSA was. Like there was a lot of things that now are common knowledge, but they were not so common to me. So I really had to like educate myself. Financial literacy was not taught to me growing up. So these are things that like I really had to put stock in. Like sometimes we put stock like in so much other stuff. like social media, staying on top of trends, things like that. But the things that are really going to drive us forward, the things that are going to drive like our children forward, those are the things that within our culture sometimes that we're not thinking about because we're just living for today. And it was very important for me to, like maximize my potential financially and like live for tomorrow, and make those plans. So once I started listening to the podcast, once I got the book, things like that, I also got a second job. So as I was listening to like the podcast, they talked about, you're not going to be able to get out of debt on your regular job. So that's something that's very important. Your 9 to 5 is not like your out of debt thing, unless you have like let's say like 5K, unless you have something like very small. But for people who have, the 2-figure, 3-figure, 4-figure debt, your 9 to 5 is not going to be able to do that for you. Of course, it's going to help, but it's really what you do afterward. So I was able to get a job at a local community college, and I started tutoring students because I was a teacher and I taught all subjects, but English is probably like my best subject. And I was able to start working with dual credit students and looking at their papers, helping them with like their grammar, things like that. And that was my second job. And I actually still have that job because I like really enjoy it. So I got a second job. I maximized the skills that I already had because sometimes we think like, oh, I'm not going to be able to get a second job. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. But you know how to do something. So what are the things that you're currently doing that you could really utilize to make more money? So I got the job with the tutoring the folks, and that was virtual, so that was perfect. So every day after work, I'd come back home from 6 to 8, Monday through Friday. I would tutor. Virtually, and like those 2 hours, each day, because sometimes you think, well, it's only 2 hours, it's only this, it's only that. Like, no, that adds up. Like, I was getting like $300 $400 checks, and then there would be other opportunities for me to do other work with the program. So I would take advantage of those things too. And that $300 $400 check is what really, helped me to pay off my debt. In addition, I got another job. So I started doing DoorDash and Uber Eats. So I would do DoorDash on the weekends. I would do it like during that dinner hour. So yeah, I would be doing that for like 3 to 4 hours. I'd probably make like $100, and you get paid weekly with that. So all that check would go to my debt. So I was working 3 jobs, but I felt like I need to do like just a little more. And I wanted to kind of create something for myself that I could continue to grow. So I had already had my YouTube channel, and I was doing my adult daily living skills videos. And I thought, okay, well, I know somebody could probably use these skills, in person. So I just kind of cold called some places. I ended up getting connected with a place that I still like do work for now. And I started like going there on Saturday mornings to teach just independent living skills courses. So things surrounding, I'm trying to think of some of my earlier lessons. I did things surrounding mental health because I am a licensed counselor. So I would talk about mental health. I did computer skills. So I just did, things that people who are in transition need to know about. And that was something that I did every Saturday morning. And then after that, like I do DoorDash. So I worked 7 days a week. I felt like I was always doing something. Like as I think back now, like, yeah, when you're in the thick of paying off debt, like, yeah, you got to work. Like you have to be willing to work. You have to be willing to put down the excuses, because sometimes we think, well, I can't do this because of 1, 2, 3, but what can you do? Because yeah, everybody's situation is different. So it's important for you to look at what can you do. So I was a teacher, and I was a special education teacher. So I worked with students with varying levels, and there were some things that my students couldn't do. Some of my students couldn't read, and that was not going to be something that was going to be realistic for them. But guess what? They could glue pictures together. They could point at words that I told them to point at. There were things that they could do. So me with that mind, I know that there's always something that can be done. And sometimes we just have to just be a little just resourceful, and it's not going to be something that may come to you overnight. Like I didn't just run into getting like a second job. So I started in September 2020, but I got the second job in December. And then me kind of working on my own things by going and teaching skills on Saturdays, that came that summer. So these were all things that kind of over a period of time, as I was thinking, as my wheels were turning, that I was able to kind of do, to get in motion. So that's very important for folks to know. Yeah, you're gonna have to get a second job, ma'am or sir. Like, just go on and get over it right now. It's only for a short period of time. You can do anything really for like a year. Like, seriously, like, you can. And for some folks, like, it may be more than a year, but it's important to remember that it's only for a short period of time, and yes, you can do that. So that's a little about how I went into all of that debt. And then I think it was just about, I want it right now. Like, I was the type of person, like, I didn't window shop. Like, if I see something, like, I'm going to get it. And especially if they said something about a payment, I was like, oh yeah, heck yeah. Like, that PayPal credit was very dangerous for me. Like, once I paid that off, I had to immediately shut that down and make sure that I would never like have it just in my clutches again, because things like this afterpay stuff is very dangerous. I see like a lot of funny videos like, oh, I love afterpay, I'm in love with it, still paying on my outfit. But that is really it's really predatory, especially for lower SES folks. Like, they're preying on those people. And I know for me, listen, I was like a lamb to the slaughter. I let them prey on me because I saw it and I wanted it, and 3 payments just sounded so good. But that was something that really set me back financially for a pair of shoes. Like, it wasn't like it was for like a medical bill or, something that like you need. Like, no, it was for something that I did not need, that was not catapulting me anywhere financially. And like, I gave into it because I didn't have like any self-control. And that's one thing that my financial journey has taught me, is that like, you have to have self-control. Like, you have to be willing to walk away. Those deals are going to come back. Those sales are going to come back. It's perfectly fine, y'all. It's going to come around again. So that's how I got into 43K worth of debt. One thing that I think is important thinking about, how can you get out of debt? What are some things that you can do, right? So the first thing you need to do is what I did here. You need to write down your debts from smallest to largest. So that's really important. So get a piece of paper. You might have to sit down. Sometimes like, you got to think about these things because we become so accustomed to just paying on stuff, that you don't realize that like, that's a debt. So anything that you owe is a debt. So yeah, that cell phone that they conveniently put the payment into the bill, so it's fine. Like, no, that is a debt. You need to pay that off. Furniture, technology, things like that, that is a debt. Student loans are a debt. So, those are the things that you need to write down. So rank it all from smallest to largest. I had 8 things, and then the 2 things that I didn't have written down, so 10. My list was 10 items long. So don't be ashamed of your list. It's perfectly okay. You're not that person anymore. You're trying to do better. So write those things down, smallest to largest. And you need to apply a method to pay off the debt. So I use the debt snowball. There's the debt avalanche, and then there's another thing, but I use the debt snowball because that's what I learned through Ramsey, right? So the debt snowball is you listing those things from smallest to largest, and then you start paying them off in that order. So actually I have, you can't see it, but on the sides, like, I have the payments that I was making for each of those things. So like that healthcare bill, I was paying like a $20 payment on that. And that was my smallest debt. So that was $282 at the time. And then my Synchrony bill, which was $500, that was $36, like a $36 payment. So what you're going to do is you're going to rank these things from smallest to largest, and then you're going to really attack that smallest debt. So you're going to continue to make payments on everything else, but you're really going to hone in by putting any extra money to that smallest debt. So once that debt is paid, you're going to roll that payment, hence the snowball, into your next payment. So I was putting $20 on that healthcare bill, paid that off. I'm going to roll that $20 payment. Okay, 16 things. That's not bad. 16 things is not bad at all. But yeah, it is important for you to write it down so that you know what those things are. And then somewhere where you can see it. Like I said, I carry this in my wallet. So you want to be reminded of it. You want to be able to see that thing, because I know for me, seeing it, like, I'm a writer, I like to write things down, I'm a planner girl. When I write things down, like, and then I check it off, like, I just feel that satisfaction. So that's why I think it's important for you to physically get a pen and a paper and write it down. You can type it up later, and make it look nice, but physically, for the first time, write that thing down. But then you're going to roll that payment. So I rolled my $20 payment into my $36 payment. So now I was putting a $56 payment on my next bill, and then so on and so forth. So before you know it, you start gaining traction. You start gaining momentum. One thing about me, I'll say, throughout this process is when I started doing what I was supposed to do, like, y'all, things like supernaturally happen for me. Like, okay, another stream of income. Okay, perfect. I think that's one of the things that inspired me to become debt free, was because I kind of wanted to do something for myself. Like, I wanted to have that stream of income that was mine, like, that I was that I was in control over. And me trying to be debt free got my wheels turning, like, about that, because when you're trying to pay off all this stuff, like, you don't have time for that. Like, you really don't. Like, you got to keep working your 9 to 5 because you got all these bills. But once that starts to, like, alleviate, like, your brain starts to open up to other things, like, well, maybe I can do this, or maybe I can try this over here. And that's what kind of helped me to get involved with me teaching my courses on Saturdays, and then counseling on the side as well. And I was able to do that because, my wheels kind of got to turning, and I started to see something else outside of just paying bills to live. So yeah, another stream of income is definitely important, especially in today's economy. So yeah, that's the first thing, the debt snowball. List your debts from smallest to largest, and then total them up. So I'll be honest, like, I was a little afraid to total them up at first, because I was like, oh Lord, I want to see that number. So it took me like maybe like a few months for me to total it all up so I can see where I was. But once I totaled it up, I was like, okay, I see where I need to be. But it was scary to total the debt all up at first. And then the Ramsey program is basically you put all debt outside of a house. So don't put your house on there. Also, get on a budget. So that is very important. So I have a video about this, but I'm gonna record another one for the new year. I use the budget envelopes. I live by those. Like, I pay, I use cash. Cash really helps me to stay on budget. So I do have a budgeting binder, and then I use the Every Dollar app as well. So I set my budget like a week before I get paid. So I'll be setting my budget this week. And I put it in the app. And then it's important to track your expenses. So that's something that I really have to stay on top of. Like, as things come out, as those fixed expenses come out, you want to make sure that you are tracking those things. And that's something that kind of takes like work over time. So for me, I remember I thought I was on a budget, but the budget was like in my head, like, yeah, that's not a budget. Like, you have to write down your budget, and then you have to actually stick to your budget. Like, I know for me, I was a little extreme. Like, I would starve before I did anything like outside of my budget. Like, he has a thing like rice and beans. Yeah, like, I was on rice and beans for real. So like, you really have to be committed to your budget. I think I got to a point where I was like convicted about not being on a budget. So I couldn't like go outside of my budget because I would feel like that conviction. And that's where, and that's really like where you want to be. Like, you want to be able to feel some type of strain, some internal strain that won't let you do those things. So getting on a real live budget that you write down before you get paid, and then that you track your expenses. So that's something that I do. And then cash. Like I know a lot of people don't like cash. I know some places were funny, like about taking cash during the pandemic, but that's probably done now. But yeah, use cash. Like use your cash envelopes. Once the cash runs out, then you know I'm done. Versus with your card, you just swiping. I know for me, like what would get me back in the day was gas. Like I would think I had a budget, but I wasn't like budgeting like I was supposed to. So I'm just swiping and swiping, and you don't really know what's coming out. So yeah, use cash. Like I rarely like use my debit card to go into places and things like that. Like no, I'm going to pay in cash, and if I can't pay in cash, then I leave. Because I haven't encountered like going to a place that doesn't have cash except where I work. Like they don't take cash, so I just don't buy things there. And that's something that may be hard, like sometimes, to have to leave your things. But yeah, I'm using the cash method. And if y'all don't take cash, then I need to find somewhere else to spend my money. So that's important as well. Um, get educated. So, like I said, I'm an educator. I love education. I love to read. I love to teach. But I was not educated on money, and I wasn't trying to be educated. But we have to educate ourselves. So, like, you have to read like a book. It's important to read, about the things that you want to learn about, because that's where the information is. It's in books. And because I work in education, I know reading is not a strong suit for a lot of people. Like our adult literacy rate in our country is very low. So if reading is not a strong suit for you, listen to an audiobook. Listen to a video of somebody talking about it. But that knowledge that's in that book, you got to figure out how to get it out of there, and then how it will best suit like your learning style. So the book that I first read was this, the Dave Ramsey, The Total Money Makeover. This is actually a signed copy, so he signed a copy for me. But this is the book that I read. I got it off of Amazon for like $12, and they actually sent me two, and I gave one to my mom. But you can get it new off Amazon for $12, or you can get it used for like $4 or $5 on eBay. So you don't even have to buy it brand new. But that's the book that I read. It was easy to understand. That was the biggest thing for me. Like, it wasn't all these fancy words and all this stuff, all this like trendy stuff. Like, no, it was regular information that's meant for somebody to read it and then apply it. So that's what I really liked about that book. So if you don't have that book and you haven't read it, read it. It's an easy read. It did not take me long. Like on the podcast, like people always say, like I read that book in like a day, and yeah, I probably read it like in a week. But yeah, read something about money that you understand. You understand it when you can teach it to somebody else. So if you can't teach it to somebody else, then you may not be fully understanding it. So get information that's proven, that other people have used and it worked. And that's what attracted me to like the Ramsey program, because I saw that people were using it and it worked. It wasn't just like some trendy fly by night thing that somebody just popped up wearing like a Gucci belt. Like y'all know the people who be on Instagram, like, oh, I can't stand those people that have like all this like designer stuff on, and they trying to tell you about money. If my financial person is wearing designer, like I honestly don't want to listen to them, because I'm just seeing stuff that I'm not trying to be like Mrs. Gucci. Like I want to learn like financial principles to pass down to my family, to have a generational wealth. So read something that you can understand. I have another book here, but I don't see it here in like my little bookcase. But it's by Larry Burkett. So that's where Dave Ramsey kind of got his teachings from. So just Google Larry Burkett and look at his financial principles. So he talks about the budgeting envelopes and things of that nature. And that was an easy read for me as well. I also, at my church, they have a financial ministry, and they had like budget coaching. So I went through a whole it might have been like 10 to 12 weeks of reading the Larry Burkett book, and then it was a workbook. So I would read it, do the workbook, and then me and her would talk about, so we meet weekly, we talk about my financial goals, we go over the lessons in the book. So look for a class, and that was free. So a lot of times, a lot of things like are near us that are free. You may want to reach out to your church. The local library sometimes has classes like that. Sometimes community colleges will do them. But really look into some type of financial teaching that will make sense to you, and then that's cost friendly as well. So the Dave Ramsey podcast was free. The book was $12, and then I took the free book or the free class at my church, and the Larry Burkett workbook was only $10. So that is like the most affordable financial education that I got. You don't have to pay somebody, a whole lot of money to teach you all of this stuff that really you could find, just on your own. So get educated. Another important step, say no. So you have to learn how to say no. Like for me, my friends already knew. Do not ask me because I'm not coming. Or unless you're paying for it. You should lead with that so that I don't tell you no. So that was something for me, and they understood that, so tell folks no, like, I'm sorry, like I can't go out, to eat. I know sometimes, things pull on our heartstrings like birthdays and things like that, but you're going to have to get used to saying no. And it's hard. I'll be honest. Like, it's hard to tell people no, especially when they're doing something fun and you don't want to miss out, but you have to say no, and you have to get used to saying no. One thing that Dave Ramsey says is like, you shouldn't be in a restaurant unless you're working there. So I was not in a restaurant unless I was doing DoorDash. And those are things that we really have to discipline ourselves. And it is hard. Like self-discipline is very, especially with money. Like for me, I'm a type A personality. I'm very structured. I have a schedule. I was a teacher. I made sure my students were on task. I made sure I was on task. I was structured in all these other places, but my money, I was not structured with. It was a hot mess. And that was something that was hard for me. So I had to take what I already knew from other parts of my life and really put it into my money. And the first one was by saying no. Like, no, I can't go this weekend. I know for me, I like buying clothes. I had to delete Fashion Nova. I had to delete, I had to unsubscribe from all the mailing lists, Ulta, all those fun things that I love oh so much. I had to unsubscribe from all those things, so I wouldn't be tempted. So maybe you have to unsubscribe. Maybe you have to, let your friend group know, like, hey, I'm in a season right now where I'm working towards something. So, I need you to help me by not inviting me places, things like that. So yeah, get used to saying no and get used to feeling bad about it. But as you really get into your journey, it will subside. And it'll just be like second nature. Like even now I catch myself like, oh, like I don't have to say no. Like I can't do that. I just need to make sure like it's within my budget. The most important thing is know your why. So why do you want to be debt free? Is it just because it sounds cool, it sounds fun? Like, no, that's not going to help you when times get hard because, you've been working for 7 days straight and you haven't had like a just a break yet. Like, why do you want to be debt free? What about it is attractive to you? Is it because you want flexibility? Is it because you want to be free from like your 9 to 5? Is it because you want to create a different stream of income for yourself, for your kids? Like, why do you want to be debt free? I wanted to know what it was like to go to a job and not have to be there. And I worked around people like that before, like that teacher whose husband is like a neurosurgeon. She doesn't really have to work, but she does. And like her kids are horrible. And it's just like, why do you keep coming to work every day? And she's just so happy and joyous. And she don't have to be here. Yeah, like I want to know what that feels like. So that was very just important for me to know that feeling. In addition to, I want to know where my money is going. Like I want to be able to do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. So that was my why. But everybody's why is different, so you may really have to ask yourself that. You may have to write that down like on the top of your paper, but it's important for you to figure that out, because if you don't know that before doing this, you're going to struggle and you're going to quit. And you know, you're not going to reach the financial goal that you set. So know your why. So those are my top steps, just a little steps of what I would recommend for you, for anybody to do who's trying to be debt free. I would also recommend that you get like an accountability partner. I'll be honest, like I didn't have an accountability partner. This was a lonely journey for me. I think like I stopped telling people after a while because they just be like, ugh, like why do you want to do that? You know, so I just stopped telling people like after a while because, you know, being debt free sounds so good. It sounds good to not give my money to payments, blah, 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 blah. But our culture is not set up that way. So I wouldn't get like the negative feedback or just a discouragement. Like I stopped telling folks unless they were like close friends, like they knew. So yeah, my journey was lonely, and I think it's important to remember that like your journey might be lonely. Like there are like you don't really realize how tied some people are to their payments. Like what? You don't want to keep like giving all your check to, you know, to all these people? Like, yeah, I don't. You know, but there are some people who like, I know for me, I had to open up my thinking. I had to be more flexible in my thinking that, yeah, you can be debt free. Like, you really can. Yeah, you can pay off a house outside of 30 years. Like, people are doing it. But you kind of have to, you know, make that decision for yourself and then and not be swayed by other people. So I would recommend, you know, looking for an accountability partner, but if you can't find one, it's okay. And just remember, listen, all those people that had all those negative things to say, guess what? I ain't got no payments now. It's not so funny now, is it? Right? So all those people are still making payments, but once you get to where you want to be, it's just a good feeling. So keep that in mind. If you find an accountability partner, that's great. But if not, keep going. So right now, I want you to type in the chat which one of those steps are you going to work towards. So which one of those steps makes the most sense for you in 2023? Which one, you know, do you really need to work on? Is it the getting educated? Is it the debt snowball? Is it the accountability partner? Is it the saying no? Is it just listing your debts from smallest to largest? Because that's the first step, right? So which one of those steps, or is it all of them? Which one of those steps are you really looking towards for 2023? Or which one do you really need to be working on? Drop down in the comments and just type it in there and just let me know. And as you're doing that, y'all, what questions do you have? So what questions do you have for me? What's something that you'd like to hear more about financially from me, or just about my debt-free journey in general? What's something that really interests you, or maybe something that I didn't say? Drop down in the comments and let me know that as well. And Happy New Year, y'all. I know it's not here yet, but happy almost New Year. So yeah, what step do you need to work on in 2023? Which one sounds like the most attractive to you? And then what questions do you have for me about my financial journey? And my financial journey started in September 2020, and then it ended this past July. So 2022 is when it ended. So not that long ago. And on the Dave Ramsey website, like if you go there, like there's like a debt payoff tracker, and you can put in how much you are paying towards your debt. And then it'll give you like a date as well. So, and that's a free tool that they have on there. So yeah, y'all, I have enjoyed talking to y'all about my debt-free journey, and I'll be talking more about it in the next year. I'll be going live a lot more. So there'll be more financial tips and things like that for me. I do have a playlist on my YouTube. It's called My Debt-Free Journey. You can find it under my playlist tab, and there are several videos on there that talk about um, my debt-free journey as well. So be sure to check those out. And yeah, y'all, I'm excited for 2023. I'm excited for us to meet our financial goals. I'm excited for people to get debt free, to buy a house for me, to get their emergency funds up. I am so excited, y'all. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Oh, I think I need that flexibility thinking to achieve this multiple stream of income. And my birthday. Yeah, FOMO is hard. FOMO is really hard, especially when I know for me, like when I see things like half off, or when I see something that I've been watching for just like a little minute, it's hard. Man, it's hard. Yeah, FOMO, especially in our culture, like, oh, YOLO, you want to live once, go ahead and swipe it. You can worry about it later. Like, that is such toxic thinking in our culture. Oh my gosh. And that was something that I had to get over. Now I feel like it's second. They say it takes 14 days to make a habit out of something. So once you are on something for 14 days, which is 2 weeks, once you make it past that 14-day mark, it's a habit. Or getting invited with friends. Yes, like people want to invite you to stuff. Like, once you try to get on a financial journey, like, where was all this inviting when I just didn't care and I just would have spent like a whole check? Like, where was that? Yeah, so that's why it's important to tell people, hey, I'm working on some things right now. So unfortunately, for the next blah months, I'm probably going to have to miss out on it. But thank you for inviting me. Like, people knew, like, don't invite. I'm not coming. Don't invite me to that. No, is it free? If it's not free, I remember I was on like a work thing, and we had to leave the campus to do something, and like we had to get lunch, and I was like, "Is lunch free?" And the person looked at me so funny because I was like, "Yeah, no, y'all should have told me to bring my lunch. I thought it was free." So yeah, that was one thing I was serious about. Like, I was really serious about it. I played no games. And that's one thing, like, you just have to make a decision. Like, this is what it is. This is what I'm going to do. And by any means necessary, like, I'm going to get there. Like, I'm so sorry I have to miss out on your birthday or the Christmas bash. I'll catch it. Yeah. So, yeah, you have to really, you got to sink your teeth in with it. And if you fall down, like I said, for my journey, I just went in because I was already tired. Like, how they say, like, you got to hit rock bottom, to make a change and things like that. Like, I was already tired. I remember, like, probably August 2020, my money was just a mess. And I was just like, I can't do this no more. Like, I cannot do this anymore. And I just, like, I got on it. I really, really got on it. So, yeah. It is hard. It's very hard. 22 months now, it sounds like, oh, wow, that was, but yeah, for 22 months, like, I went in. I didn't buy anything I wasn't supposed to. I didn't do anything, that was outside of my budget. I think I overcame because, like, I knew my why. Like, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I had the goal, I had the vision in mind. And when I saw, like, me writing, like, all of my stuff down on the paper, like, when I saw me checking stuff out, when I would do my tallying, like, okay, well, how much more, like, do I have to pay on my student loans? That's what helped me overcome when I saw how close I was. And I felt like I could do it. Like, yeah, once I saw how close I was like, oh, I can do this. It's only like, you don't realize like how it's easy to make money. It's so easy to make money, especially in our country, but it's hard to do what you're supposed to do with it. So making the money is not the problem, especially right now. Like, jobs are like begging people to come for, to work. But I think for me, once I saw like, well, it's only $1,000 left on this, or it's only $500 left on this. And then I had my side hustles going. Like, it was easy for me. It became fun. Like, I know that's weird, but paying off debt was fun. Checking off my little lines, tallying up my little amount to see how far like I was, getting those payoff letters in the mail. I think I saved like every single one of them. Like, that was fun. It felt good to see like a dividend from the work that I was putting in. So it's just those little things like that. And then like along the process, like things just like happen like for me, like supernaturally. Like I had a medical bill, that $500 medical bill. I remember I got an alert on my phone and it said like Synchrony paid off or something. I was like, no, it's not. I just looked at that like a week ago and it was $500. And I remember I called them and it was like, yeah, it's paid off. Supernatural payoff with things. Went out of the country for free and got paid to go. Like, who does that? So like once you get on the plan that you're supposed to be on, once you start doing what you're supposed to be doing, God is gonna work for with those goals. Um, and yeah, that's how it was for me, and I'm excited. Like now, I'm here today. Would I go into $43,000 worth of debt again? Heck no. But would I like go through that part? Like would I do it again to set a goal and make it? Heck yeah. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in, and I guess I'm about to go. I don't have my watch on, but finish watching my shows. And this live will be posted shortly after, so it'll be back for folks too for you to go back and watch. And if you have questions, be sure to let me know. And I'll see you soon. Bye.